Boy! 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 You call me boy! Come on. You can't tell me that Atreus didn't get tired of that just a little bit. God of War is a game that came out on PlayStation 4. It came out obviously months and months and months and months ago, and I couldn't play it at the time because I didn't have a PlayStation 4 at the time. Now it is months and months and months and months and months later, and I finally get a chance to talk about God of War, which I beat sometime 2 weeks ago, I believe. I apologize for being late. I know that a lot of you have already seen God of War and beaten it and played it, and you've already shared your thoughts about it, but I figured even though I'm late to the party, at least I showed up. If you guys have been following my channel, then you definitely know that I'm interested in doing more game reviews. I did review Spider-Man when it came out, wow, like 2 months ago? It's weird how time flies. Now it's time to talk about God of War, or as I'm going to be calling it, probably the best game that I've played in 2018, or maybe the best game I've played in my life. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So this God of War is a very interesting game because it's kind of a departure from the other God of War games as I remember them. The other God of War games were put in set locations with a set camera fix. This one, I'm pretty sure, is over-the-shoulder shot. Also, it features some RPG elements, whereas in the other games, you're pretty much just by yourself the entire time as Kratos, the God of War. Not to mention, the other games also focus loosely on Greek mythology, and it really was just all about the revenge of Kratos trying to kill the gods of his time. This one, it takes place years and years and years later. He has a son. He has a recently deceased wife who you find out over the course of the game. Man, she had some secrets. Now, instead of Greek mythology, you get introduced to more Norse mythology, and a lot of that is really fun. There's a lot of lore, and there's a lot of interesting stories that you can discover along the course of the game, not just with the main story, but also with the side quests. There are stories that are told to you from a talking head. Literally, if you play the game, you know what I'm talking about. There's a talking head that fills you in on some of the blanks of this Norse mythology. So if you ever feel lost, don't worry about it. There's plenty of things to discover, and there's plenty of things you're going to find out over the course of the game. Really, the story is pretty simple, but it's a very emotional and effective story. It's very engaging. The story basically is because Kratos has a recently deceased wife who we only know her as Faye. You find out what her real name is towards the end of the game. Her last dying wish was that her ashes be scattered at the peak of the highest point in all of the 9 realms. So you have to take your young son Atreus on this journey. You have to fight a bunch of creatures and monsters that are part of the Norse mythology. It's a very emotional story because really the story focuses on parenthood, and it focuses on the dangerous, violent cycle of gods. But really, the crux of the story is about a father trying to get closer to his son. Kratos is really not the easiest person to get close to, as Atreus finds out. So they're back and forth, and their dialogue and their banter over the course of their journey, it evolves, and it goes through ups and downs and peaks and valleys. They definitely have a lot of issues under the surface there. Man, I'm just so invested in where they ended up at, because all of it feels incredibly earned. The voice acting also on display with the characters is terrific. Christian Judge, I believe, is the voice of Kratos, and man, is it a badass voice. It's damn near flawless as a voice. It's exactly the kind of voice that you would want from Kratos, especially a Kratos that's like seasoned and experienced now, and he's trying to be like an old wise guy. While Atreus does help you out in RPG during this game, don't get it twisted. This is still first and foremost a Kratos game. Really awesome though. Atreus is doing the things that he does during combat to help you out. He can shoot arrows, he can perform melee attacks or whatever. You can upgrade his armor, you can upgrade the arrow and the quill and whatever he needs to be effective. As far as Atreus himself, I mean, sometimes he straddles the line between being an annoying little shit, and then the other times you're kind of like, no, he's necessary, we need him, and this is good for Kratos. I'll tell you one thing, Kratos definitely loves this kid, because some of the shit that this kid gives him, like some of the ways that he talks to Kratos in this game, I'm just sitting there like, there's no way Kratos from the other game would have allowed anybody to ever talk to him like this. Visual effects for this game are also really great. Like, the graphics are some of the best graphics that I've seen in any game. So many bright, vivid colors that bring the environments to life, and also that ties into the mythology, because there's so many interesting places you can go. You're going to be spending the majority of your time in Midgard, because that's where most of the main stuff is, and that's where the bridge is, and there's so many different places you can explore there. Then also you can use the Bifrost in the bridge to go to other realms. You can visit a place that's like hell. You can visit a place with light and dark elves. A place called Muspelheim where you have to go and you have to get through like 6 challenges, and if you get to the top, you get to fight a Valkyrie. We'll touch on them in a second. The point is, this world is full open world. There's so many different places you can go, so many different side quests, things you can collect. The game, even when it's over, obviously never really feels like it's over, and those are the best type of games to play. Most of the boss fights in the game are really epic too. There's this one central badass in the game, Baldur, who is the Aesir god that is pretty much the enemy of the entire game. He's the son of Odin, he's the brother of Thor. You also have to fight Thor's sons in this game for what it's worth. Love how the story added Baldur and Thor and Odin and how it tied it all into the mythology. mythology and how it sets up for things to come, because you realize towards the end of this game that we're headed towards Ragnarok in the next game. The combat system is awesome. So many different badass moves you can do. Obviously, you start off with this Leviathan axe that you can throw and it comes back to your hand, and it's really awesome how realistic it is. Like, it hits in your hand. It's not like it just like lightly touches it and falls into your hand. No, it's just like boom, and it just lands in your hand. It's pretty awesome. Obviously, you do get to use your Blades of Chaos later on in the game, because it wouldn't really feel like a God of War game without the Blades of Chaos. I'm saying this game probably would have worked without it, but it's great to see it. It's great to have it there. And then you can do a whole bunch of combos with those. You can upgrade your Blades of Chaos. You can upgrade your Leviathan axe, just like you can upgrade everything else. Sometimes that does feel a little bit like sensory overload, because there are so many different things you can upgrade. Like, you can upgrade the chest armor, but then you can also upgrade the sockets that go into the chest armor, and vice versa for all the other pieces of armor that you have. There are so many different armors that you can have, even after you start the game over and you keep all of your old shit from the previous files. It does feel a little bit overwhelming. That's a nitpick. It's not really an issue with the game. It's just a lot of things to do, and there's a lot of things to upgrade, I guess. There's definitely a well-rounded cast of monsters and creatures and beings that you have to fight to keep you on your toes. Nothing tops the Valkyries, though. The Valkyries are a bitch to get through, definitely. If you get all the Valkyries, you obviously have to fight the Valkyrie Queen, and that's just, she is my Sephiroth. I mean, if you've ever fought Sephiroth from the Kingdom Hearts games, then you pretty much know exactly what I mean when I say that the Valkyrie Queen is the Sephiroth of God of War. Guys, there's just so much to get swept up in this game with. I love Mimir and the back and forth and the stories that he has with Kratos and with his son Atreus, because a lot of times you're just on a boat and you're going through the Lake of Nine. And there's a lot of shit that Mimir says to you to try to pass the time, and a lot of really interesting stories, and all of it adds to the lore in Atreus' journal, which I guess he carries with him on his journey. From the graphics to the action and combat to the story to the characters and the voice talent, everything about this game is like as A1 as possible. It's as good as it could ever be for a God of War game. I really have very little issues with the game at all, honestly. From beginning to end, I was immersed in everything that was happening. I loved almost everything about it, and I'm gonna give this game probably a perfect 10 out of 10, because it freaking deserves it. It's my favorite game of the year so far. Alright, so guys, you played God of War. Obviously, I'm a little bit late to the party. Tell me what your favorite part of the game was, whether it's the combat or the graphics or something else, the mythology. Let me know. Also, let me know what your theories are heading into the second game, because we do get a lot of big revelations towards the end of the game. Atreus' mother and Atreus' real name, and then Ragnarok, and there's a post-credit scene that's really interesting. So guys, let me know what you think about it down below. Please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. If you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.